Hey guys, this is Kai from WCC, and today we're going to talk about how to practice properly. Now, a lot of players think that just by playing their deck a lot and winning locals, they're ready for the big league. But the reality is that when you get to regionals, you're going to meet a lot of players who are on a different level. They're going to have strategies that you've never seen before. They're going to crit you more often because they're luckier, and they're going to have money to spend on cards that maybe you or your friends cannot afford. So how do you become a regional god? All right. So first things first is you got to find a friend. Now, why is finding a friend important? Because it's actually pretty hard playing with yourself. Now, when you're testing, you can't just solitaire all day. That is not enough. And playing two decks against each other by yourself is going to take forever. So you're going to need to find a friend. You need to find someone who has the same mindset as you and who's interested in testing to the point where you're both ready for regionals. And if you can't find anyone in real life, find someone online. You have CFA, you've got Skype, you've got Tabletop Simulator. You just need to find someone to grind the meta with. So after you've found a friend, compile a list of decks that are good and just test them against each other. And this is where you also throw in the decks or crazy ideas that you have that you also want to test. So if you're in standard, you're like, I want to test Royals, that's meta. I want to test Murakumo. I want to test Shadow Paladin. And then I want to test like Oracle and Angel Feather. They're all meta in the metagame at the moment. And then as something crazy, I want to test out Grand Blue because I have this crazy idea. It might be good. It won't be good because it's Grand Blue, but it might be good. Yeah, so this is where you throw that in. And then you start playing those decks against each other. And look, when testing, you also got to play those what-if scenarios as well. If you want to do a risky play, do them. The objective of the game is not to win. When you go to a tournament, the objective is to win. But when you're testing, the objective is to learn to win. So play those risky plays. Save the stakes. When you play a risky play, go, okay, hang on, I want to do this play first. And then if it doesn't work out, see if you can go back to that play before. But don't be afraid to make those risky plays. Test those strategies too. If you're against Murakumo and you feel like, I want to try just rushing Murakumo instead of denying damage or the other way around. Do that. This is where you've got to do that testing and learn and see what happens. Cliche line here. You learn more when you lose. When you lose in testing, you will learn how you lost. You will learn what you have to do in order not to get to that situation again. And that is way more valuable than just riding to 3 and double critting your opponent. If you win all your games in testing, you have learned absolutely nothing. You've learned that your opponent probably isn't as good as you, or you have a very favored matchup, or you're just very lucky. If you ride to 3 and double crit your opponent, just put the second crit back, shuffle your deck, search for something else. If you're stuck and you have to G-assist, maybe don't bother G-assisting unless you're playing something like Gear Chronicle where your like ratios are really, really weird. But if you're playing a normal ratio, just look at the top few cards of your deck and just ride whatever that's the next grade up. Don't worry about it. You've got to spend your time effectively and test properly. You don't have infinite time to test, okay? So after that, another thing also is when you're testing, maybe you want to test open-handed as well. That can crack situations that you might not realize. This is big in things like premium when your hand size can become like 15 cards, huge. And then when you actually look at those cards, right, you actually look at his hand, you realize they're all grade 3s and grade 2s with no hand quality whatsoever. When you're playing against Bermuda, this happens. Sometimes when you're playing against OTT, this happens too. It's also very helpful because you get 2 eyes on the game. He can tell you what might be a better play in the early game for you to do. You might realize the opponent's hand is weak at certain situations, so it'll create ways where you realize there's certain openings or there's certain weaknesses in this matchup that you might not realize. So playing open-handed, very top-tier strategy. Okay, so after you've done that, after you've called the decks to what you actually want to play, you're going to play the decks that you're very interested now. You've called that list to maybe 1 or 2 decks, and this is where you start practicing very hard until you become very competent with your decks. Now, what do I mean by very confident? Like, you've played a lot of games. How much more confident do you need to be? Now, this is more relevant in Premium, because in Premium, the combos last infinite, right? The combos get huge. When you think of something like Bermuda Ange Harmony builds at the end of G format, when you think of Night Rose back when it was meta, those combos can last for a very long time. And then when a trigger, when your opponent gets a trigger, then the combo changes, and you've got to change the playstyle or change your plays in order to maximize what you can do. Now, when you don't have to think about that kind of stuff, then you can focus more on other things. If doing the combo is mechanical, you can start looking at your opponent, you can start checking his reactions to what you're doing. When you're in a huge pressure situation, when you're approaching time, you can just execute and not worry. When your brain power can be used for other stuff, that is way better than actually spending it on the current situation. That is what gives you the edge over your opponent. While he's thinking about certain things now, you're thinking about the future. So make sure those combos are just natural to you. Once you've gotten to that competent level, then you're ready to go to things like locals. Okay? When you go to locals, you're not practicing your deck anymore. When you're going to locals, you're practicing your tournament demeanor. What do I mean by that? Well, when you go to locals or a proper tournament, you don't get the luxury of takebacks. You have to put everything you've learned with your deck into action. And that means you've got to play perfectly. And the other thing is that you've also got to learn how to recover from mistakes as well in a tournament setting. And if you lose, you have to learn not to go and tilt. The other thing is, when you're at locals, you're going to be playing against a different pool of players, which also think more differently to your playtesting partners. And if they have some crazy ideas, this is where you want to hammer down the nails and actually experience those crazy ideas, and then you'll know how to beat them. If you lose to them, you'll know how to beat them later on. And then you could probably emulate those crazy ideas with your testing partner later. And then after locals, then it's the real thing. Then the next step after locals is the big tournament. And that's where you got to pray. You got to pray that you don't lose to luck. And look, it happens. Losing to luck happens. But you've got to make sure the skill portion of the game is 100% covered. When you go to the tournament and you lose, you want to make sure you've only lost because of luck. One thing I like to say is that if you X1 a tournament, that one game you might have lost due to luck. If you X2 a tournament, you probably made a mistake unless you were super unlucky. But if you X3, you've definitely done something wrong. One thing I notice with a lot of players is that when they lose, they go, I got luck sacked. And okay, you might have gotten luck sacked, but a lot of the good players will not say that. They'll go, I made a mistake somewhere. And that's true. That's true. They're not blaming luck for their mistakes. They're looking at where they can get better. If they got double crit, they'll be thinking, maybe I should have guarded that. Maybe I shouldn't have taken the risk. Maybe I should have guarded a bit earlier. But a lot of the weaker players I found will always just blame luck. And sometimes you just want to blame luck. It's the easy way out. You go, that's how you not tilt. Maybe that's your strategy. But at least deep down inside you have to learn, even in a tournament, how you lost and how you don't want to perform that mistake again, especially in that tournament. So with practice, that is what's going to help you. That's going to how you get better for a tournament. But just make sure you do the practice properly. With us, we don't have infinite time to practice. For my team, we actually practice not that much compared to maybe other teams. But we make sure our practicing is quite legit. So hope you guys learned how to practice in this video. This Royal Paladin deck is going to finish very soon. And I hope I'll see you guys in the next video where we talk about more tournament theorycraft stuff. So see you later. Bye.